Hello everybody! It's Minner. I wasn't thinking clearly last weekend. I was a bit too fired up about the new motorcycle. I wound up with a really crappy lens from fog and debris. And I also wound up running out of battery in the midst of my mental scramble. I completely lost my ability to calculate, add, subtract, all that good stuff out the window. So what made me insane? Well, this. I don't know about the rest of you, but that noise gets me going. So, we're back out here. Some curvy roads. I'm on an S1000R. '2015 model. Not many left out there. 2016s, there may be some slight difference in the paint, but the salesman had told me that also didn't seem very with it. I want to catch some initial impressions of how this thing handles in the corners. I just got off of a Yamaha FZ07. Been riding that for, well, nearly a year at this point. Not quite. And it's an awesome bike. Now, why would somebody trade in a Yamaha FZ07 for a BMW S1000R? And I think it probably applies to a lot of people that buy this bike, and it's a bit of an untraditional approach to the subject because people try to rationalize, and it gets annoying, to be honest. But what I will tell you is the truth. The most important factor, though, is stimulation and out from the monotony of everyday life. My work tends to go around the clock, and when I'm not working, you have to release. It's an impulsive purchase. It's something that I bought not because it made sense. It doesn't make any sense. Why would I spend twice as much money, or nearly that, on a motorcycle that I clearly can't use all of? I couldn't use all of the FZ07. Not on the street. But sometimes you have to spoil yourself. Sometimes you say, look, I'm young once. I have the means. I have the motivation to have some fun. If I'm ever going to use a bike like this, I'm going to use it now. I'm not saying I'm not going to be able to use it when I'm in my 40s or in my 50s. I certainly hope I can. But every day I see people that are young and just stricken with something, whether it be stricken by a car or stricken with a disease. They never anticipate it. Life suddenly ends or changes abruptly, and the ability to indulge in things like this is lost. That's what this is about. It's about making yourself happy. It's quite that simple. Now, someone that's been riding a nearly 700cc bike for 10 months, you might hear some comments about you're going to kill yourself and not enough riding time. I gotta say, in terms of ease of riding, this bike is, it's easier than the FZ07. It just matters how much you turn your wrist, to be quite honest, and it has a lot more potential. And if you turn your wrist too far and you lean over too much and you get twitchy mid-corner on the throttle, yes, you could possibly hurt yourself, and you could ruin the bike. But you gotta know yourself, and that's what I said when I first got the F-07 as well. Why would you start out with a bike that's nearly 700 cc's instead of a moped? And it's because I know myself. I know that I'm attentive and I'm not gonna kill myself. At least not by those so often cited methods. Something happens, it happens, and it'll be random, like a car crossing this line right here and me having nowhere to go. But that happens when you're in a car too. So far, it's done everything I wanted. When I walk by it, I stare at it. Sometimes when I'm not walking by it, I just stand there and stare at it. What do you notice? The first thing I notice when getting on this bike is the absolute stability. It almost feels in a way like it's doing a lot of things that you were trying to correct on the smaller, the Yamaha Z07. The stability at speed, it feels very planted. Some of that may have to do with the weight of the bike. I think this is 450-ish pounds. The throttle, it's sensitive. The engine gets spinning, but the torque is more gradual than what I experienced on the F-Z07. So coming off the line, it's pretty smooth. It has an electronic throttle. And I know all of them don't have that sensation, but this one does, and it's nice. What else is there? It's more aggressive than the F-Z07. I had the rental ultra low bars on the F-Z07, and that put me in a better position than the standard bars, and the position was pretty good, but I was going to get some pegs that were a little higher and a little further back because I wanted to be in this position. Another reason why I bought this bike. The Tuono was a little too cramped up for the combination of commuting and roads like this. Oh man, I'm gonna have to pull over. These cars are friggin' killing me. And other than the Tuono, which for some reason I know I couldn't quantify it, I just had more concerns about service and reliability. Than I do with this. I know this is going to cost me if it breaks, but at the same time, just the fact that something's Italian kind of makes me comfortable. I am such an idiot, by the way. You realize it just stops just after a corner? But the absolute size of the bike mattered to me because I felt like with the F-Z07, I would always be cramming myself into it. It would never fit me naturally. And it wasn't completely uncomfortable by any means. There's people that are a lot bigger than me that were riding the bike on a regular basis and having a grand old time. But personally, I just wanted something that was a little longer, something that could put more weight on the front wheel over without having to spend extra money. These people suck. I don't know where they're going. The build quality. That's one of the reasons why I bought it. It's just put together really well. Every component of it really seems to be almost over-engineered. It has a very solid feel to it. It makes you feel very secure. Makes you feel the underlying structure is not going to crumble on you over time. When I sit on it, it doesn't creak. It gives you a thrill. When you hit the throttle, you'll notice that it has a top end that I haven't felt before on the F-Z07. I can't take it anymore. That I haven't experienced before. And it's really nice because I can chill in the low RPMs and then you can go a little nuts in the higher RPMs. It's like two different bikes, depends on where you want to put it. Turn-in on the F-Z07 is just as light, probably lighter. The bike's lighter. I actually don't know about the rake, whether that's any different. But the rake on the F-Z07 was pretty aggressive, actually. It was like 24 point something degrees. So the initial impression is a completely different power band, a ton of stability, quality. And then you hit the brakes, and dear God, the brakes. I was actually worried they'd be a little too much. But they're not. They don't have this incredible, crazy bite that I was expecting. The exhaust noise when you start this thing up, it causes a ruckus. I love it, but it's not ridiculous. It's not disgusting. Yeah. I'm gonna get my fucking ass? Seriously? What the fuck are you doing, asshole? God. You ride my ass like you old fuck. The tires definitely feel like a different level. I feel like I really can't explore the grip on the tires. I just don't have any concerns about grip. I'll push the bike mode gradually once they get scrubbed in, but you can feel it with your fingernail, you know, when they're warmed up, and even before. It's just a softer compound than the Michelin Pilot Road 3s that were on the FC07. But that again, you know, I wouldn't want to hit rain in these Diablo Corsas either from Pirelli. It's just it's made for a different thing, and these things I'm sure are going to wear out in like 50 miles, and that'll be a decision to come later. And one of the biggest oddities about this model in particular, I think I mentioned in my last video, is it's stripped. It doesn't have any of the DDC, it doesn't have heated grips. It doesn't have dynamic mode, it doesn't have dynamic pro mode. It doesn't have a quick shifter. So I'm riding it myself. It's got the ABS, of course. It's got stability control. To be quite honest, I can't find any information about this model. This supposedly stripped model, because they're rare. I mean, even the website doesn't even have it as an option. I can't see what's there on the website. I hope it has traction control. Highway riding. I don't know what to call that thing on the front, the semi-fairing that it has there. And that little clipper right there. If you drop down and you go into that semi-tuck that you can get on naked bikes, it does a much better job, you know, straight off the floor than the FC07 does the deflecting wind, and that should go without saying, because the FC07 has nothing at all. And so you can find a pretty comfortable zone. I think it's derived, well, it is derived from the RR engine. And it has a lot of the power up top, and so on your cruising, especially on the highway, you're cruising 80, 90 miles an hour, but you carry higher revs. For the size of the engine, the revs are higher than I think, but this was somebody who's used to a twin, you know, that's lumping all over the place, and that was cool about the FC07. The 6K was like an overdrive kinda, which was fun. My rev limiter. lot of fun. The bike feels very stable in the corner. I think it has so much more. Oh, it's one of the best corners too, the sweeper. You ruined my sweeps, man. I'm gonna fucking cry about it. I am. What you notice is these asymmetric cutouts here on this side. You can see there's no symmetry to this. It has this curved shape here, which is different. And then you come to the other side of the bike. Look at the other semi-fairing. You can see the symmetric cutout on this side of the bike in more of an arrow shape here and here. Still, you know, fairly naked. You know, the fairing doesn't wrap around and cover the front part of the engine, and shocks are much more exposed. The engine's much more exposed. The underbelly here with the exhaust is more exposed. I think the exhaust looks great. Now, if you look at it from here, you can say this garbage is ugly, but who's going to be looking at your bike from this angle, including yourself? So I have no qualms about the exhaust at all. That's the perfect exhaust for me. It's short. The exhaust that extends up too high drives me crazy. I just don't like them. I don't like to go past the midpoint of the rear wheel. So it's in a perfect spot for me. I just feel like that's a purpose built. Why would you have a lopsided long exhaust that could throw off the balance of the bike? Get a good look at the wheels here. There's those killer brakes. There's the tires, the Diablo Rossos. You can see this does not have the gold forks like almost every other S1000, because this is the standard model. Once again, I don't know what company makes these things, but they're working fine for me now. They're not tweaked though for my weight, and I don't think they're tweaked for the road perfectly either. However, I have to say it does not feel uncomfortable at all. Unfortunately, the black wheels already have a nice coating of dust on them. And I think these brakes are partly to blame. But the wheels normally look prettier than that. So the tires got some ways to go. There's some strips on there that we should take care of. Thank God that's not a nail. So the asymmetry on the fairing is also present in the front as well. You can see the headlights. I think it's great. I love that wonky look. Little fairing here. This is just to protect the back side of the instrument screen. You have your standard large levers. And the turn signals, at least the outer plastic is clear, but they are still longer than I would like. I'd actually think they would be fairly perfect if the stems weren't so long, but you know, it's a safety issue. I'm not really blown away by that. It's not upsetting. One thing to appreciate about this, I think, is the width of the bike. Maybe you can get a good perspective from here, but the overall width, especially when looking at something like an FC07 that's a really stripped down naked, a twin, something that doesn't have an engine that's so wide, it's kind of surprising just visually, the mass. And I don't know if it'll come across in the camera. And the tank has that flatter, wider appearance as well. But the bike feels extraordinarily light when you sit on it. It certainly doesn't feel like it has a lot of mass. Foot pegs are great. Just machined metal, no rubber on them. At the rear shock there. Everything's well covered, and this aluminum frame in here, it just feels so solid. It's just a nice piece. It really is. The back seat's not bad either. It's a little narrow. I have the Comfort Pillion on order. I think it's wider and thicker. Should do a better job. This rear taillight's awesome. That's great. Has a very sort of aggressive, pointy look to it. That is the rear view here with that 190 rear tire. It looks great. It really does. And that matters with something that's supposed to be entertaining. Something that's supposed to make you smile. Certainly not anything you buy for practicality. So, we'll talk about some of the downsides of this bike in another video, because I'm talking too much and I'm starting to irritate myself. Please take a moment to take in the beautiful scenery of Southern California. Those rolling mountains, those rolling lush mountains. Doesn't that just make you happy? We'll do a final start up here and we shall proceed.